So I came out to check on a few things in the greenhouse, and I noticed that the liner in my stock tank tub has started to shrink, it appears, or just lower into the tub. And I thought, how in the world is that happening? Unless something is protruding on the backside. Well, guess what? Something's protruding on the backside. It looks like the stock tank has split from just the weight of the water and deterioration of the plastic over time. So I've got to figure out what to do here. I've got a couple of these storage boxes that are pretty rigid plastic that I think will do a good job short term of housing all these plants. And I'm really frustrated because this pond had just really crystal clear. I've got this pond lily growing out in the middle of it. All these plants are doing great. I've got a couple of fish in here now, not a whole lot, just enough to keep the mosquito larvae down. But anyway, yeah, man, it was really just coming into its own, and now it has herniated, for lack of a better term. Well, since I'm pulling all of these plants out of the stock tank, might as well take the opportunity to see how they're doing as far as root development. Now, of course, the pothos is doing amazing. I mean, look at that. I'm going to move this over. I've still got to fill this up with some water. Hemographis is doing well. It doesn't have as much of a root development as I thought, but it's got so much foliage. So I don't know if that's prolonged period of time where the water has been low, and I did not realize it. But it's still putting on so much growth. Even a new leaf right there. So I'm hopeful. I think it's going to be okay. It just needs consistent moisture around those roots. This pearl and jade pothos, also known as enjoy, it's doing fabulous. Look at those roots, man. That's awesome. I'm excited to get more of this. This is probably my favorite variation of pothos, and I definitely want more of it to spread around to the other ripariums and ponds. Now, Chinese evergreen. This has been doing very well. It's got excellent root development, and it's been in here for a few months as well. It's putting on a lot of new growth, developing new roots, so it's going to be a good one. This monstera, I'm noticing how thick that stem is getting. I mean, it's as thick as my finger, or even more. And look at that massive root right there. This is loving the water. We will expect great things from it in its new home. Well, it's finally giving way. I was taking plants around off the edges, and it has started to split all the way up to the rim. And of course the water's draining. I'm just going to let it go and find its way out of the greenhouse. So the backstory on this tank is that I had it outside through the winter during the first year I had it, and it developed a crack in it, and so I drained it, siliconed it, and it worked fine for a while, but then it developed another crack. And so I have found that these Rubbermaid stock tanks have a tendency to crack when they're left outside year-round. And so after a number of cracks, I went ahead and bought a liner for it. Just, inexpensive liner from Lowe's, and that's worked fine. But I did not know that the plastic would weaken to the point of splitting and causing this to happen. But it's okay. It's just part of the lessons of life. And now I know not to buy Rubbermaid stock tanks. I've salvaged as much sand as I can to keep it separate from the dirt substrate. And now we're going to pull the liner back, and I will show you the disaster. This is supposed to be, Rubbermaid. It's supposed to be solid, and it just tore apart on me. I'm just so disappointed. And it's only about 3 years old. I just wish I could have gotten more time out of it. Now that I've got the sand layer off first and in a separate container, I'm going to do the same with the dirt substrate. Well, after doing some research, I decided to buy a Tough Stuff 110-gallon stock tank. It has great reviews from a number of people who have actually been using them for outdoor ponds year-round. It feels solid, but it does have some flex, which I believe will make it more durable in the changing seasons and temperatures. Well, now I have it in place in the greenhouse and level for the most part. So now I'll start putting the substrate back in, dirt first and then sand on top. I decided to mix in more clay to the dirt layer and then added the sand cap back on top and began filling the tank with water. Now here's a trick I learned for placing a water pump. If you set the pump in a plastic tray that's at least 3 or 4 inches tall and put lava rock in the bottom and then place your water pump on top of the lava rock, this prevents sand from being sucked into the intake and also helps disperse the horizontal water flow. And of course, the lava rock adds prime real estate for the beneficial bacteria to colonize, improving your biological filtration. Hey, check out what's blooming. This is a native perennial wildflower to the southeastern U.S. called red star hibiscus. It grows naturally in swamps and lowlands, and it's far too large for an indoor riparian, but it makes a fabulous pond plant. Well, things don't always go as planned, and it seems like every idea that I have requires twice as much work than I expect to implement. But I still manage to have fun and learn something valuable in the process, even when disaster strikes. And it could have been so much worse. I could have lost fish or plants, but thankfully that was not the case this time. Well, thanks for watching. Remember to stay away from Rubbermaid stock tanks and go out there and have fun living the plant life where it's all about the plants.